You're listening to Ask Dr. Gray Premed Q&A. Miranda, welcome to Ask Dr. Gray Premed Q&A. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thanks for asking.
Awesome. What can I help you with today?
So, I submitted a question that is specific to my situation,
Okay.
and I am currently a caregiver, and I don't really know how to incorporate that into my application when I start prepping for it. So, I've been told to put it in my personal statement because it is a big part of my life and has had a lot of influence on a lot of my decisions. But as far as an extracurricular, it's taken a lot of time away from being able to get more experience
Mhm.
with what I want to do. So I don't know how to convey it best.
So when you say caregiver, just define that to make sure we're on the same page.
Okay, so I'm not certified. I'm not a nurse.
Mhm.
I graduated from college in North Carolina,
Okay.
and then I moved to Tampa, Florida to
Woohoo.
work.
Yep.
And there has been a family member. She's my grandmother, and
Okay.
she has pretty severe psychological problems.
Okay.
No memory problems actually. So my parents ended up having to take her in and take care of her, but they work about 80 hours a week. And so after discussing with them, after they'd had her for the first month, I decided to move back home and help them with all of the little things that comes with having to take care of another individual.
Okay. So in my mind, right, what you are doing is amazing clinical experience. That is an amazing activity. And so it may be preventing you from being in a more traditional setting, but being a caregiver, even if you look at like the AAMC has 5 ways to get more clinical experience type post on their website, and being a caregiver is one of those things. When I applied to medical school the second time, I had been a caregiver. I moved into a family friend's house. She had bilateral hip or knee surgery. I forget, it was so long ago, and she needed help getting around and taking care of her cats and doing all this other stuff. And I lived in her house for a long time, and I definitely put that on my application as clinical experience because that's what it is, right? It kind of depends on what you are doing as a caregiver, but if it's in some relevant clinical type setting, not setting, but obviously clinical type thing that you're doing, I would 1000% potentially talk about it in your personal statement. If it is relevant to why you want to be a doctor, I would
Okay.
1,000,000% put it on in your activity list and talk about it because it will potentially help explain any other gaps in your activities or work or whatever else, right? Okay, what have you been doing this whole time? Well, look, I've been a caregiver. That'll be there to fill in any sort of time gaps. So I'm all for talking about it, putting it in there. Do you think your experience has motivated you and further kind of confirmed to you that this is what you want to do?
Yeah, it definitely has. It's actually supported the fact that I'm not as interested in psychiatry, but I have a great appreciation for it. My undergraduate degree is actually in psychology and human services.
Okay.
So, and part of that reason I think that I really wanted to do that when I first went to college is because my grandmother lived with us when I was in high school. So,
Okay.
um, I saw her and had to interact with her and help her with a lot of, just daily things,
Yeah.
and stuff like that because she has a lot of high demands, um, in different situations. So, I think, I mean, it's just part of my story. It For me, wanting to become a physician started before that, but
Okay.
yeah. So thank you for your advice on that.
Yeah. You're welcome. No, it's definitely an amazing experience. It's obviously um, It's amazing to be able to provide for a family member like that. So from one aspect, it's nice, and then it's like, ooh, it's bonus that it helps with my medical school applications. It's a little cherry on top, but no,
Right.
that's great that you can do that. Um, let's talk about the. Or do you have any other questions for me? I was going to ask you some
Yeah.
more questions.
So it's there's not a good segue for this, but
Yep.
when I was in college, I was a two-sport NAIA athlete,
Hmm.
and I didn't. As far as another section for extracurriculars, I did a lot of volunteer work, but it was with my team. And
Okay.
so,
Yep.
as far as when you put it on your application and having a contact and having hours, so and so, I I wasn't thinking of going to medical school at that point,
Yep.
and so it's not something I tracked. It's just something that we did.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it's just part of being
so
an athlete, and that's fine. You guesstimate how many hours you put in. Obviously, especially a two-sport athlete, it's going to be a large chunk of hours.
yeah,
I mean, technically, you're like, well, I was an athlete 24/7 and 365 for 4 years, right? Don't do that kind of math. But estimate whether it's during the season more, during the off season more. Just trying to estimate everything that you've done, and you could potentially lump it into one activity to say, right, just collegiate athlete
hmm
as one activity, and then like volunteering as another, and then just talk about everything you've done as an athlete. If there is one like major thing that you remember that you did, even if it was part of the team, and you're like, oh, potentially I want to talk about that separately, you could do that as well.
okay,
I wouldn't worry about it being under the heading of, oh, I did it as an athlete. I don't think there's an issue with that.
okay, awesome. That yeah, because I was worried about that. I haven't gotten a lot of good advice on how to, I guess, translate that part. So,
Yeah.
uh, thank you for that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're welcome. What else?
Additionally, I've been kind of confused if what I did when I graduated from college would be considered clinical work.
Okay.
So I worked as a neuropsychological technician at USF Health
Yep.
in Tampa,
Yep.
and I did cognitive testing
Yep.
with people who had neurological problems. So,
Very aware
um,
of what that is. My father-in-law is a
yeah,
neuropsych guy, so that's 1,000% clinical experience.
okay,
Yeah,
cool.
it's not super traditional clinical experience, but that's definitely clinical experience. You're interacting with someone, getting this neuropsych testing for whatever reason, whether it's a concussion or there are students needing a diagnosis for accommodations, whatever it is. You are interacting in a clinical way with patients, right?
Yeah,
That's definitely clinical experience. It's really good
okay.
clinical experience.
Okay, cool. Yeah, because I really enjoyed it because I could be with somebody for 5 hours.
Yeah, super long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I have a lot of great stories and experiences to pull from that, and I
Hmm.
was really hoping that was something I could count on.
Yeah, definitely. So just kind of remember as a general rule of thumb, very common mistakes that I see when students are writing about their experiences. Make sure that you're not talking about kind of what you learned from the experience. A lot of students go to that angle, but
Okay.
try to reflect on and think about why that experience further motivated you to be a physician.
Okay.
That's kind of the take homes that you want to try to drive towards.
Okay. Thanks. Yeah. I've drawing from some of the other podcasts that I've heard you with different guests on. I think that it is gonna be good experience to pull from, but
Hmm.
kind of hard because otherwise, I could just reiterate why I want to be a neuropsychological technician for the rest of my
Yes,
life.
definitely. You have to walk that fine line to say I really like this experience and it wasn't enough for me, right? Using different
Yeah.
language, right? Ever since I wrote the personal statement book, this pre-med playbook guide to the medical
Hmm.
school personal statement, and I've been reviewing other students' personal statements. They've kind of taken my my idea about trying to show how it wasn't enough and trying to show why they wanted to be a physician, why they want more, and they're just using those words in that kind of generic way. I'm like, no, like you need to go further than this.
Mhm.
So it's definitely a hard thing to do, even for anybody, right? Because any pre med student isn't working as a physician or volunteering as a physician. And so they're trying to translate what they're doing as an EMT, they're trying to translate what they're doing as a nurse, as whatever into I enjoyed doing this. I loved this experience and I still need to be a physician, right? So that's the trick.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah, because I worked as a pharmacy technician in Florida as well, and I don't know what that would necessarily be considered. We had
Yeah.
patient patient care interaction, but it was more customer service oriented.
Yeah,
So
a lot of students get the pharmacy tech position. Was it a retail pharmacy?
yeah.
Yeah, so typically in my mind, it's not clinical experience, and it's not just because it's in a retail setting. It's because you're not really acting in a clinical way, right? It's like, oh, hey,
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, your prescription's ready. Here it is. Okay, it's $5. Oh, you need to buy a box of tampons for your wife. Okay, great. It'll be here. Here's where you pay, right?
Hmm.
Swipe when the light turns green, whatever that is, right? It's customer service. It's great experience, but it's not clinical experience in my mind.
Okay, cool. So I'm glad that I've got that defined in a better fashion.
Yeah, but
Okay.
but everything that you're doing now with your family member, I mean, that's great clinical experience. So I would definitely count that. Again, not a traditional setting, right? It's in a home,
Hmm.
uh, and it's a lot of hours because potentially you're there a long time, but it's a
Yeah,
great experience.
I live with them, so it's every day, all day.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Okay.
definitely a great experience. So when are you planning on applying to medical school?
I want to apply as an early applicant next at the end of May, as soon as
Ooh.
everything opens.
Let's talk about that. Why? So when you say early applicant, do you mean early decision?
I just want to apply as soon as I can. That's what your usually your advice is to get
Hmm.
your application in a reasonable amount of time.
Yep.
And that deadlines shouldn't really be called deadlines.
Yes, 1,000%. So you've been listening to my words of wisdom, so that's good. So that being an early applicant definitely different than applying early decision. So
Okay.
early decision is offered by some schools to say, "Hey, I'm only going to apply to your school, and hopefully I get in. If I don't, then I can apply to other schools." But that's typically a lot later in the cycle. And a lot of students think that that's an awesome thing to do, but in my mind, there's usually more risks than not. So you're just talking about just making sure that your application is in as early as possible.
Yes, that's
Awesome,
what I meant.
done. Okay, and so classes, it sounds like you're finished up with. You're happy with your GPA. Don't need to fix anything there.
Well, I have two more classes to take. I
Okay,
am taking genetics and biochemistry in this fall semester.
okay,
And then, as far as I know and what my pre-med advisor has said, I should be good.
okay. And then MCAT next year, at some point early next year, before the
Yes.
cycle, and hopefully you do well with that, and write a good personal statement and good activities and get those secondaries in as soon as possible, right? So pre-writing using
Hmm.
secondaryapps.com, all that fun stuff.
Yes.
Good.
Fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed. Is there anything else I can help you with?
So I guess some of my confusion, I guess, for myself is um, when I'm asked, more about myself, not necessarily about what I've done to prepare for medical school.
Hmm.
I was fortunate enough to be able to speak to a dean of admissions for a local medical school.
Okay.
And that's something he asked me, and I have never had somebody ask me that before. And this was before I started listening to your podcast.
Yeah.
So I have probably some regrets just because I don't think I conveyed to him how much, that I'm a person, that I live outside of the pre-med world too. And so I'm trying to get a good grip on that because it's just difficult, coming out. I was working 7 days a week out of my undergraduate to help pay for my boyfriend's master's degree. and then we moved back, and I'm there for my grandmother all the time. So
Mm.
it's hard to be able to do things that I love to do in addition.
Yeah.
So
It definitely makes it hard when there are lots of commitments to do things for you. Even like in the future as a parent, you're like, I never get to do anything for me. It's all about the kids. And so that's life. It never ends. But you have already shown that you're more than just a pre-med student. Being a two-sport athlete definitely will help with that. And then just make sure that you're going out and you're enjoying yourself. You're working out. You're going out and rollerblading or bike riding or hiking or whatever you're doing for yourself as well. Whether that's cooking, you love cooking, you have like a reading hobby or listening to music or whatever those things are, right? Just make sure that you're doing fun things for you as well, and that's just going to help you continue to keep your grades up so you don't get burnt out. It's going to help you with your MCAT score. It's just going to help you overall just in your mindset and your well-being.
okay, thank you. That's really great advice because it's hard to just catch a breath sometimes.
It is. It is definitely hard. I understand that. With two kids, and we're always running around, and but it's fun. It's the balance of everything in life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for everything, Dr. Gray.
You're welcome. I'm glad I could help, and good luck on your journey.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me here on Ask Dr. Gray Pre-Med Q&A. Did you know that we record these live on Facebook at 3 p.m. Eastern on most weekdays? Search for Medical School HQ on Facebook and like the page to be notified. Don't forget to check me out on YouTube as well on Medical School HQ.